Thank you, resident comedian Rance. Looks like our video's over, so Kalisha, you want to go ahead and get it cracking?
All right. Hello, everybody. Hello. Thanks for joining us tonight. Glad we have a new face in well, I guess I can't see your face, but we have a new name in the building. I think it was Abrion Adams. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Go ahead and put a phonetic spelling down there in the chat if you're saying it wrong.
Big words.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yes.
We are happy that you're here. We hope that you continue to join us. We're gonna let Mr. Josh go ahead and give us a little bit tell us about Hype, Mr. Josh.
Sure thing. And Abrion said we can call her Bree. So from now on, she's gonna be Bree. So welcome, Bree. We appreciate you coming. So Hype, Hyping It is what we're doing right now, and it's an extension of Hype. And Hype is an acronym for Helping Youth Plan for Excellence. So what we do is just a bunch of stuff around the community to engage with fellow teens like yourself, all the way from 13 to 22, I believe. The way we reach out is mostly in performance arts. So whether you rap, sing, dance, do poetry, or just goofy like Mr. Rance and you want to get on the stage and tell jokes, we can use you. And we always try to stick to three different main focuses. We focus on HIV and AIDS, substance abuse, and violence. Every year we were doing a play at the Kaufman Center downtown, a real big place down there, till coronavirus hit. So everything we're doing now is virtual just to keep everybody safe, but we're still finding ways to reach out to the community. So if you want to be a part, make sure you hit us up and we'll get you all the details.
Cool. Thanks for that.
Oh yeah, and I'm Josh, by the way. She already introduced herself. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Monica. Nice to meet everyone.
All right, and I just wanted to say, just keep in mind of everything that you're putting in the chat. We can see it all behind personal chat, on-screen chat. We can see it all. Let's just be mindful and respectful of everybody's, thoughts and feelings and opinions. Just want to throw that out.
Thank you for that. So I think we're gonna go ahead and we got a real special guest today. You want to tell them about our special guest today, Kalisha?
All right, so our first special guest, she's right here locally in Kansas City. Miss Mia Ramsey. She also has her daughter with her. It's gonna be Sydney. We're just gonna ask her about her experience. She recently had COVID-19, and I'm sure everybody is very familiar with what that is. But we have her here today. If you have questions, feel free to ask. Please don't be shy. Just ask your questions, and we will make sure we get those answered for you tonight. So without further ado, I guess we could go ahead and move right into that section.
Got a nice little video for you.
A Kansas City woman who battled COVID-19 and won, sharing her survivor story and shattering some stereotypes.
For some, it's not a big deal, but I don't know that. And so I'm taking a chance with your life to say, oh, if they get it, it's not a big deal. Who wants to play roulette with somebody's life?
Our anchor, Cynthia Newsom, joins us from her home studio with this story. Cynthia.
Yeah, I want to start with the dashboard from the World Health Organization. Here it is. And this map of the United States, when I click on it, it shows us that 11 million people, more than that, have had COVID-19 in the United States. So it's likely that most of us probably know someone who's had it. My friend, Mia Ramsey, here in Kansas City, was diagnosed in August. I asked her if she would share her life lessons and what we need to know about COVID-19, and she said yes. She's back from the brink of death. Surrounded by her husband, Daryl, and family, Mia Ramsey is smiling again.
And so how are you doing? You seem like you're
I'm great. I'm great. I feel good. Listen, I'm enjoying life, man.
Joy after enduring serious pain. COVID-19 took her breath away.
We take breathing for granted. We really do, because just the slightest movement was painstaking just to breathe. She was rushed to St. Luke's Hospital on the Plaza on August 1st and was there for 9 days. I was asking God, like, so this is it? Like, so this is how I'm gonna go out? This is how my life is gonna end with COVID-19.
Her story shatters claims that having COVID is not that bad.
Oh, it's just like the flu. It's just like it's not. It's not anything like that.
Mia is a well-known Christian singer in Kansas City and worship leader at Kingdom Word Ministries. She loves entertaining, traveling, and having fun. She understands people may be tired of social distancing, but
for me, the life lesson is safety over socializing. I don't know that I have to socialize that bad, that I'd risk my life without a mask.
Mia told me remdesivir and prayer were the 1-2 punch to knock COVID out of her system. Even though she's COVID-free, she is not free from its side effects. Watch what happens when I asked her a question.
We had a room. I'm so sorry, Cynthia. I'm trying to remember. That's one of the things. Just memory. Brain fog is one of the after effects of COVID, and so I'm trying to remember. And so I have to take my time when I'm thinking, so it doesn't look so obvious that I'm struggling right now.
Her husband, Daryl, who is also a COVID-19 survivor, understands better than anyone what Mia is experiencing. And now the entire family is working together as the healing process from COVID-19 continues. Wow, some powerful words from Mia. Thank you so much for being transparent and sharing your story. Mia also told me that she's grateful for her family all across the country and here in Kansas City. She also praised the medical team and the housekeeping staff at St. Luke's. So I want to wish Mia and her husband a fast and full recovery. I'm Cynthia Newsom, 41 Action News.
Wow.
There she is.
That's real.
Wow.
Wow.
That's not all you can say after that. Wow.
Yeah.
It's a blessing to even have you here with us today in our presence, Miss Mia.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Josh. Man, it's a blessing to be in anybody's presence, but definitely you all tonight. I'm grateful to all of you, to Pastor Williams, to the hype crew. Man, y'all doing the thing. Look, y'all got the logo going on. Y'all had the intro, man. Y'all doing it.
That's these kids, man. That's these kids.
Man, they own it. Yeah.
And how you doing today, Sydney?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really good.
That's good. How old are you?
I'm 14.
14. Well, pleasure to have you.
She's 5'9".
Oh, yeah?
Oh.
Yeah.
Ballin'.
That don't mean nothing to me. All right. Yeah.
So we saw kind of a little bit about the struggles of having it. Tell us about what your feelings were of COVID-19 before you got it.
Well, we were definitely all in with the masks, and we just took our time, going out. We weren't like, hey, let's go to the restaurant. Let's go kick it. Now, like everybody else in March, we thought, oh yeah, we could probably still, you just got to be careful.
Exactly.
But it was in March. By April, May, it was like, oh, wait a minute, though. I don't want to go nowhere. Everybody leave me alone. Don't call me. Don't come by.
Don't come by here.
Yeah. And so we were taking extra precautions just to make sure that we were good and the people around us were good. But I got COVID because my husband had it, and he was doing an event. He's a sound engineer. So he was working with his partner, and they have a business. They were doing the event, and somebody at the event had COVID that night, and we didn't know. And even though they had a mask on, they were singing, and so they had taken off their masks to sing. But at the time, that person didn't know. Now, my husband had on a mask, but he didn't have on gloves.
Oh, so he touched it. Probably.
You wiping your sweat, and any open pore, anything that's open is what we've learned, since then. So he rubbed his eye. If he, took his mask down, wiped his mouth, just anything. So you think you're sanitizing enough, but prior to that, he didn't have it. And from that event that night, 9 people ended up having it. And so 2 people had gone to the hospital, but it was like an overnight stay. But we didn't know he had COVID. That was he had engineered the event that Sunday. By that Wednesday, Wednesday.
Okay.
Slept for like 20 hours. I mean,
Okay.
stop.
So
He didn't get up to go to the restroom, nothing. He was like
wow.
for 20 hours.
So was he like asymptomatic those first few days, or it hadn't kicked in yet?
It just hadn't kicked in yet.
Okay.
And so what we later learned was it takes, so we saw a report yesterday that they're saying now it takes a few more days, maybe a couple of weeks, but we have not seen that. You know, everybody that I know that has contracted the virus, it has been by 72 hours, you know whether or not you have the virus.
Exactly.
So, you know, it was about that amount of time on Wednesday when he was just tired. And I thought it was just from the work he had been doing.
Mm-hmm.
He slept. And then that Thursday he got up, he moved a little bit, ate a little bit, but he, you know, was still very, very tired. And then Friday he was up and out, but we did not know. It wasn't until Saturday that we got a call and said, hey, the people that were at the event tested positive for COVID. You need to get tested. Well, I didn't get tested because I didn't really have any symptoms. So we had to wait for him to get tested. He went through the TMC Truman Medical Center. They have the drive-through, went and got tested. His results came back 2 days later on that Monday. He was positive for COVID. Well, then I had to get tested because I was in direct contact with my husband and so were my children. But my children didn't have any symptoms.
Okay, that's good.
I started experiencing some coughs, you know, just a little chill here and there. My body was achy, but I, you know, thinking it's seasonal allergies or, you know, I'd just been doing a lot because we had a concert that weekend. And I got tested, and within 24 hours, I had my results back that I was COVID positive. So it was fine. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kalisha.
Yeah, go ahead. I was gonna say, so in that moment when they called and said, "Hey, you tested positive," what was that like?
I was okay, except for the fact that I wasn't as concerned about myself as I was concerned about the people that I had come in contact with. And so I was really sad because my husband was sad. He was sad that I had gotten it, that he had given it to me. And then I was sad because we had been around people. And even though there was even one person I had hugged, just kind of like we both had our masks on, and it was like, you know, a little side church hug, like how you doing or whatever. But it's still, I still felt like, oh my God, because at the time you're still unsure of, even now, you're still unsure how you can contract the virus. You know what I'm saying? Does it jump from person to person? Is it on surfaces? You know, if I sneeze, is my mask covering up? Did something come out of my mask? You know, just all of that. So I was paranoid for the people that I had come in contact with. I mean, to the point of tears. Like I had to call everybody. And it, you know, I was just overly apologetic. And everybody kept saying, listen, it's not like you did it on purpose. Exactly. You know what I mean? So, but that still didn't comfort me at the time because I didn't want anybody to, you know, have to deal with the virus itself. So
that's kind of a segue into my next question. I was going to say, do you feel like people treat you differently, or do you feel like it's kind of the same? Or
laughing for it. Listen, let me tell you something. This is what I told Pastor Williams. I ain't gonna lie. I use it sometimes. Hey, you know I had COVID.
You know I had
COVID. Yeah, because you know people be like, hey girl, hey, you know I had COVID. Because people still be like, hey, let me get a hug. Hey, high five, girl. Hey, my home. Hey, you know I had COVID. You know, it kind of uses. So I don't know if they treat me different or not. Yeah. I just, if I need to use it, I can.
Exactly. Let's talk about the hospital experience. You said you were in there for 9 days, right? And you said people take breathing for granted.
Yeah, man, it took a lot. Just, I mean, my daughter's here. She can tell you, man, it just so being in the hospital, nobody can come to the hospital, nobody. So my husband, my children, nobody could come. Matter of fact, the night that we called the ambulance, I called the ambulance because my husband was still recovering from COVID. I didn't want to infect anybody with COVID, and I was too weak to drive myself because I had COVID. So I had to call an ambulance because they're trained to be able, you know, and they have the PPE to be able to transport. But when I got to the hospital, just slight movements, man. I mean, literally to just sit up in the bed took a lot of energy, and I couldn't, like, it was like being out of breath because I ran a marathon just to move, just to sit up in the bed. Or if I had to go to the restroom, I had to call for the nurse because they had to help me get to the restroom because I couldn't, it wasn't that my body wasn't working, I couldn't breathe. So I felt like I was going to pass out all the time.
Man. Wow.
Yeah.
So Sydney, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask Sydney. So my mom, she was in the hospital for about 3 weeks here recently with some other health issues, but things got a little bit better to where they were letting one person in the hospital each day to see to visit. How was it like with you, Mia, not being able to go see mom, knowing she's struggling and dad's not feeling well either? How was that? And then probably you were in school too, weren't you?
Actually, it was the month before school.
Oh, that's right, August.
Virtually.
Okay.
I have a sister. I have an older sister. So with her being there with me, it helped me through it. But it was rough. It was really rough because even when we got the news that my dad was positive, it was like, okay, this is scary, but it's just one parent. I mean, it's still a deadly disease, but it's like with one parent, we can all lend a hand to help them get better quickly. And then when mama went to go get tested and then she was positive, it was like, okay, so both my parents are sick. One of them is in the hospital, literally fighting for her life. It was crazy. It was really, really rough. But we had a lot of people there to help us get through it. We had a lot of aunts and uncles, a lot of people just around us to help us get through it. But it was really, really rough the first few days. But we got to FaceTime her every day, got to talk to her. It was just rough not being there, face to face, getting to talk to her, getting to, ask her, do you need anything? You need some water? You need help with such and such, and things like that.
Man, you're a strong young lady.
So Sydney, you said you were with your sister. Can you tell us, were you doing like any type of activities that kind of kept your mind off of it, or how did you deal with it?
A lot of Tyler Perry plays. I'm gonna be Tyler Perry. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I love the Medea plays, all that stuff.
You heard her, Tyler. You better come sign her up. She loves
right. Yeah, right. Like, seriously. But I would be with my sister the whole time while mama was gone and while daddy was recovering. So we really just watch a lot of movies and really just chill out. We would only leave the room if we necessarily had to, just so we're not bothering him so he can rest and recover. But yeah, really just a lot of Tyler Perry plays.
And then are you doing school virtually or are you in person?
Oh, I'm virtual all year.
So yeah. How is that?
I'm not going to.
Do you feel like you're learning? Do you like it? I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, Jesus. From the health side, I think is good because I'd rather be safe than sorry. And I don't want us to go through this again. I don't want me to bring the virus home and give it to everybody else in the house. So I like being virtual just to stay safe. But me staying in a room for 7 hours every day, that's not my ideal day. I'm just honest. I don't want to be stuck in a room all day. But thankfully, they give us breaks, like nice long breaks in between classes so we can get our minds together, get everything that we need for the next class to keep the day as simple as possible. But at times it sucks because I don't have a teacher like in my face to ask questions like, you help me, define this, because you writing it out in an email is not going to help me learn. Talk it out with me, then I got it. But yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's not the bomb, but I have to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, I can feel that. So Mia, you said remdesivir and prayers what got you through, huh?
Listen, I'm trying to tell you, at the time that they gave me the remdesivir, the doctor that was treating me said that only about 50 patients have been treated at St. Luke's with it, but all of them had favorable results with it. And so she asked me if I wanted it. And I was like, well, yeah, if it's gonna be helpful. It's not a vaccine, but it does treat the pneumatic part of the virus. And so they had given me that. I was on that, Mucinex, and a steroid. So I had to take and I had the inhaler as a side note. Usually when we think about steroids, we think about the albuterol, but that was in addition if I needed it. So I had the pills, I had the Mucinex that I had to drink, and then they were giving me through my IV, the remdesivir.
Okay.
So she told me after day 2 or 3 that I should start feeling better. And by day 2, I could tell I was feeling better, but day 3, I was like, oh yeah, this is working.
Okay.
I was grateful for that. But I had a couple of scares in there where I didn't think I was going to come out because I had a fever spike. Because one of the misnomers is that, if you have a temperature, but my husband didn't have a temperature. I didn't have a temperature the whole time. The only time that I had a temperature was when I went into the ER that night, and I was fine. They had checked my temperature. I was fine. And then all of a sudden I got a fever from nowhere. And it sounded like I was in a tunnel. I thought I was about to die because I could hear myself talking, but it sounded like I was echoing and that like I was losing consciousness. And so they had to give me 2 cold compresses and the Tylenol, and then I was coming back. I could hear myself coming back, but I kept telling the nurse I'm about to die. I think I'm about to die. So she had to like calm me down or whatever, because you're already in an unfamiliar place with the virus. You know what I mean? And then that everybody else is uncertain because there is no cure. There is no, you know what I'm saying? So your only hope is in Christ at the end of the day. Now listen, I go hard for Jesus. It's Jesus all day long. I'm not saying I'm super deep or anything like that, but you can't beat me loving Jesus. Like that's what I do. I like that. I live my life for him. So that conversation was daily, all day, even today, because I still struggle. I still have, like in the video, I still have after effects. Oh, how rude. After effects, I'm sorry.
That's right. You called it brain fog, right?
Yeah, it's brain fog. And I had read about it. And then I started seeing different, TV shows that had interviews about it. It was crazy. It was crazy. I'm telling you, it's challenging.
I bet.
Yeah.
Let's get to some questions from the kids. Let's see if they got something they want to ask. All right, y'all, I'm opening up this chat now with my old blonde self. Shoot us some good questions. What y'all got? Anything for Miss Mia or Sydney?
Anybody. Don't get shy now. Let's see. Anybody.
And while we wait on them, I had another one I wanted to know. So with them playing all this politics during the pandemic, how do you feeling about the vaccine?
Well, I am not taking no vaccine. Listen, I'm not taking the vaccine. There's a couple of reasons. See, here's my issue with the vaccine. And this is the issue with politics. This is how politics and kids, young people their age going to school. Now, Sydney couldn't go to school without a diphtheria shot. What is diphtheria? To school without a measles shot, a mumps shot. Like there's a list
of all that stuff.
To have a shot record, right? But we were willing to send our kids, like the government was willing to send our kids back to school without this particular
exactly.
See the spread of this virus rapidly increasing across the country. And so I was like, no. And so even with this vaccine, and I know that we have the capability, the scientific, know-how to get those things done. But, I don't know. And maybe, Pastor Williams can off the air minister to me about it. Bishop Morrison, my pastor child, he already like, I ain't taking no vaccine. It's like they putting nano chips inside Yeah, because I'm telling you, because some of the information is that, you know, there is technology that they are inserting, just like they do with animals, you know, for tracing. So, you know, I got my own ideas about it.
Theories on that.
You know, it's this blessed oil and Jesus.
Listen, okay.
So Alexis had a question. She said, "Is there anything new happening, even though you're battling with COVID? Well, you battled with COVID."
Yeah, I can't think as fast as it's not. I mean, it's a little challenging. Like I have to. Sydney will tell you. I'll be like, what I say?
What had happened was.
What had happened? Right? Yeah. I will punch you.
Don't punch
like that.
Yeah, man. I think that that the only thing that's new with me is I have a new direction in my life. You know, it gave me perspective about what's important, what's not important. Important is family, you know, God and family. That's everything. I will challenge myself day to day to not get so involved in everything else because I missed my family. You know, I was so busy running before COVID, and so my family got leftovers of me, and I didn't like that. You know, and then I was finding myself irritated or frustrated, you know, and they were like, "Hey, mom, you want to play a game?" And I was like, "No, you know, I just got through doing such and such." And it was like, okay, but you did it for everybody else, but what about us? We're your family. So being away from them and dealing with a life or death situation made me appreciate them. So that if nothing else has changed, my views about family has changed.
Family and time.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Man.
Had a suggestion in here in the chat. He said, try the old school card memory game. Remembering.
Shut up. Like with the cards, like you match up. Come on, whoever said that high five. Yeah.
He's also our resident comedian. So I don't know if he was being serious or if he was being for real, but that might work though.
Listen, if it don't work, I'm a punch him. So that'll be funny to me. No, I'm just playing.
He said
he's serious. He's serious. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. That's a great idea. Thank you.
I guess we can wrap it up with the last question. Any messages for people that don't take COVID seriously?
Well, I'm gonna let Sydney answer because I know for adults, you know, the more we see the cases, you know, I'm watching CNN, I'm on MSNBC. I'll turn to Fox if I just want to be irritated. You know, but we across the country are making changes. You know, the city of Kansas City, the state of Missouri, the state of Kansas are making changes. But really the question is, are young people taking this seriously? Because they seem to be able to, you know, bounce back a little bit more. So here's the question for you, Sid.
Okay. I would say COVID is real. You hear that all the time right now. COVID is real. So you not wearing a mask, you might as well just go up to somebody and let them sneeze on you because you're not protecting yourself. So COVID is real. So wear a mask. If you need to, wear gloves, sanitize your hands, wash your hands. But even though we're younger, that doesn't mean we still can't experience what my mom and my dad experienced. That doesn't mean anything. So yeah, take it seriously.
And please. Even if there is a vaccine, you know, and I pray, just like we have vaccines for everything, but I just pray that people don't use that as an excuse to be reckless. Mm-hmm. Without a vaccine, we got to do better, and we have to be better for one another. So.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I sure appreciate y'all letting us talk to y'all and y'all giving us y'all story.
Thank you so much.
Definitely heartfelt and big help. I believe it will be for everybody. So thank y'all for that.
Man, thank y'all for having us, man. We enjoyed it. Sydney made some neck bones, so.
Ooh, I'm coming. What time they done?
Yeah, it's time to eat.
Oh, man.
All right.
So y'all can definitely stay on with this. What you saying, Kalisha?
I was going to say, we go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Jones and Miss Monica, and we get out your way.
Thank you. We'll be on. We'll stay on.
All right. Thank y'all.
So this leads us to Mia and Sydney had an amazing story to share, and it leads us to our next guest, which is Dr. Bridgette Jones. Dr. Jones is with the Children's Mercy Hospital here in Kansas City, and has been on the front line of you know, this very I don't even know how to really describe it, horrific pandemic that we're experiencing. It's something that we've never seen before and that we've never experienced before. And Dr. Jones will be able to tell us what that looks like being on the inside, and also, how do we address some of the unknowns, or if we can address those? And then as an LCSW, we can also talk about the mental health aspect of that, Dr. Jones and I, because I see it on my end when it comes to the psychological impact of this disease, this virus. And so, Dr. Jones, thank you so much for joining us today. We are so appreciative of you taking the time to speak with our group and answer our questions. Can I begin by just asking you if you can just tell us your areas of study and what you do? I know that you're also a professor of pediatrics with the University of Missouri, Kansas City, my school. Go Roos.
Yeah, thank you for having me. First, I wanted to just really thank Ms. Ramsey and Sydney for sharing their story. I think, for them to be able to share, kind of their personal experience with this, I think is so important to drive this message home that COVID is real. It's really, really real. And, even though we're tired of COVID, COVID is not tired of us. So I just really appreciate them sharing their story. But so I'm a physician at Children's Mercy. I'm actually a specialist in allergy and asthma and immunology. I'm part of the workforce that's on the front lines, but I'm not on the front lines because one of the things, particularly in children and in teenagers, and I think Ms. Ramsey and Sydney talked about it, is fortunately, children overall aren't getting as sick from COVID as adults, but we still have to take it very, very seriously for the entire public.
Yes. And so what does that look like when you talk about the respiratory issues? You heard Mia talk about what that felt like to not be able to breathe and you being on that respiratory side. I mean, what does what are we seeing when it comes to the youth and respiratory issues with COVID?
Yeah, I mean, for the youth, what we're seeing, some of the kids that seem to be more at risk for respiratory issues are kids that have asthma, so a disease that I deal with. Kids are also getting a specific kind of inflammatory type reaction where they get like really red eyes and get rash, that just kind of have pain all over. But from a respiratory standpoint, the things that people describe most is just not being able to get air at all. Like the simplest things, standing up and walking from one room to the other, or just standing up from the bed, not being able to get air at all. And I think that's something, with this virus that particularly, has made it so deadly, the way that it does attack the lungs. And we don't know exactly whose lungs it's going to attack. Ms. Ramsey talked about her experience where it seemed like, initially she probably had the virus and didn't know it and was fine for several days. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're down and you can't breathe. And that's the really, really scary aspect of this virus, is that we don't really know, how it's going to act in this person versus another person.
Right. And we heard, I think it was Kalisha that asked, about being asymptomatic. And so are we seeing more asymptomatic cases with our youth where they're not really exhibiting the symptoms outwardly?
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think, the really, really big problem with the youth is that there are likely tons of people walking around that have it and have no clue that they're having it. So, I mean, you really have to treat everybody like they have it, because you don't know. There's statistics that show among kids, about 15% of the kids that tested positive have no symptoms at all. And it's probably a lot more than that, because we're not testing as many kids as adults. And so that's why, masking, hand washing, keeping physical distance, those are things you really have to be vigilant about, because you really don't know who has it.
Right. And then on my end, we always talk about keeping physical distance, but we talk about not social isolation. And so there's a fine balance of, okay, I can distance myself, but not be socially isolated. We try to encourage the technology and things of that nature, because I'm sure as a medical provider, you're seeing also the increased psychological symptoms, the depression, anxiety, the vicarious trauma, just being able to hear it and see it. And so it's so important that, youth understand that this is normal. This is a normal thing that happens.
Yeah, definitely. I think, for kids and for teenagers, the mental health aspect is kind of I think it's the hidden pandemic. It's the thing that's happening to all of the youth that we're not really talking about and not really addressing. But in our hospital, we see it. We see, increased risk of, or increased rates of depression. We see increased rates of anxiety, increased rates of, suicide attempts. I mean, we're seeing that now among our kids, and that's, unfortunately something we're not really talking about as much. We're so concentrated on just the viral symptoms themselves, but we're not talking about, what's happening to kids like Sydney, who sounds like she likes to go to school, she enjoys school, and she can't go to school, and she's stuck in her room for 6 or 7 hours looking at a screen.
Yeah, and they're missing those major milestones like birthdays and graduation and sports activities. So it's hard.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, and just kind of this virtual learning environment, not being able to see your friends at all, not being able to interact in normal ways that kids are supposed to interact and develop. I mean, this has been going on for 8 months now, and kids have been in this state where they've been isolated. And so that's something that, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's something that we're not talking about enough.
Yeah, I mean, the CDC also reports our completed suicide attempts have gone up, and specifically between the 18 and 24 years of age group. And so it's really important that we normalize that it's okay to talk to someone, that it's okay. We all get a little down and sad, and we deal with things like seasonal affective disorder, but you think about being isolated, like you said, for 8 months, to be away from everyone. And then one of the things I think that was really key that Mia mentioned was that guilt. It kind of reminds me of that survivor's guilt. Is like, well, did I infect you? And I think with kids too, them being that asymptomatic kind of prominent group or whatever, maybe I brought this home to mom or dad. And there have been cases where, parents have passed because of the virus being transmitted. So there's that level of guilt too. And so I just think it's so important for kids to feel like they have that safe space to come and talk to their physician or talk to their therapist, or even reach out just for a warm line, a warm voice to hear and get that help. Is there something that Children's Mercy is doing or encouraging, or that you would encourage as a physician for children to be okay with facing those stigmas, that it's not abnormal to say, I need to talk to somebody?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the message I try to, bring to my patients, but and also to my own kids. So I have 2 young kids that are school age, that, this is not a normal state that we're in. It's okay that you're angry. It's okay that some days you're sad. Those are normal reactions to what we're going through. And so, I think it's totally okay if you feel like you need to talk to someone because you're sad, or you can't sleep, or you can't, stop having kind of fearful thoughts. Because you're not meant to live in an environment like this for as long as we've been living like this. And so it's a normal reaction that your brain is not handling this state. So there are resources. Children's Mercy has a website called a Parentish blog. I can put it in the chat later. I have a link that I can share that has a lot of resources for parents and for youth as well. We talk about, things that you can do at home when you're feeling anxious. So things like meditation, yoga. There's so many like free websites out there now where you can go on and find like you can do a 2-minute meditation, a 30-minute meditation, or like a quick yoga class. Those types of things you can do. You can do journaling. You feel those thoughts come in, just write them down to get them out. I mean, there's things that you can do to help cope with that. And so I can put those resources in the chat later on.
Wonderful, wonderful. And so, yeah, we would definitely want to encourage you, take that break for yourself. It's always important because sometimes we can be overwhelmed by what we see on the news and hearing so much negativity. I always tell my clients, just take a small break away from the television when it becomes overwhelming, because it can be kind of a downer to hear that all the time, but also to still keep up with the information that's going to keep you safe. Mia touched on a little bit about the vaccination. Can you tell us kind of like how you feel about the vaccination?
Yeah. Yeah. I want to say first off, I really understand hesitance from the community about the vaccine because it has been politicized, unfortunately. And I also understand, there's hesitance, particularly in the Black community, because of, the history of medicine within our communities.
Yes.
And so, I really think that, our society and our government has to make communities comfortable with this vaccine. They have to show that it actually is safe and is effective. So I hope that they develop messaging that communicates that. Personally, I do trust the process. No matter what our current president says, there's a process that happens without him. Yes. That the FDA follows to make sure all the medicines, all the vaccines that we take are safe and effective. So it's a very rigorous and hard process that you have to prove that the things that you put out there actually do what they say. So I do trust that process. And I do think that, we see that the impact that this virus has had on our community, particularly the Black and brown communities, where we're dying at much higher rates from this virus. And so I think particularly in the Black community, I want to see that people are made to feel comfortable where they will take the vaccine. Because, honestly, it's kind of our only, out at this point to get out of this state and to be able to come out of the house and have some normalcy. I mean, this virus is not going to go away on its own because one, people aren't doing the things they need to do to make it go away. We're still socializing, we're still going out, we're still, bars and restaurants are wide open, and I think Americans have just decided, like, I'd rather be at risk than be inconvenienced. And so it's not going to go away without the vaccine. So, I, for one, I volunteered for one of the clinical trials. I didn't get picked for it, but I would have, been in the trial because I do trust the process.
Yes. Yes. And you hit on a good point there. You talked about the disproportionate rate of Black and brown children and Black and brown people in general. And then tonight here we are talking about children. And when we look at asthma, and I'm not a medical doctor by any stretch of the imagination, but asthma is typically impacts Black children.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's, to me, does that place those children at a higher risk?
Yeah, so our community, the Black and brown community, is at risk for COVID, higher risk for bad outcomes from COVID for a lot of reasons, because we do have higher rates of chronic diseases like asthma, diabetes, high blood pressure, all of those things that if you get COVID, it's gonna be worse. So that's one of the reasons why you see those, higher rates of death and bad outcomes from COVID. Because of, within our communities, there are structural and systemic barriers that prevent us from being as healthy as we could be. And so that's led to the chronic illnesses that we have. And so, unfortunately, we see the same thing with kids. The Black and brown kids are the kids that are being hospitalized for COVID. They're the kids that are developing this inflammatory condition from COVID. They're the kids that are dying from COVID. I mean, death from COVID is rare in children, but the greater proportion of those kids are Black and brown kids. And so I think that's especially why in our communities we have to be, more vigilant about, protecting ourselves as a community. And also, hopefully once a vaccine comes out, messaging can provide enough information to where we're comfortable with taking the vaccine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And how do we wear our masks, Dr. Jones?
Oh gosh. Okay. I'm so glad you asked that question because Okay, so you need to wear the mask. I should have brought one but it has to be on your face tightly, a tight seal. You don't want it sagging down or big gapes on the side. And it needs to be over your mouth and your nose at all times. Do not have it like below your nose, do not have it underneath your chin. Like that does not, don't pull it down when you talk.
And what about a t-shirt? Can I put my t-shirt over my face?
No.
Or a bandana? Those are not good.
Well, I mean, if all you have is a bandana, that's better than nothing. If you tie it up at the top and tie it at the bottom to where you kind of have a seal there, you can use a bandana, but not your shirt over your nose. But yeah, I see so many people with it down below their nose, or I'll be talking to the patients sometimes and they'll pull it down when they talk. And I'm like, no, that's when you want to have it up. When you're talking is when you want to have it up. The other thing is I see a lot of people with the mask with the valves on the outside.
They're not good.
No, you don't want that either. You don't want any holes that the virus can get in or out. So like having a valve that has holes in it doesn't make any sense. No, you don't want that.
Somebody asked, what do you think about those gaiters, I believe you call it, that they put over the coverings?
Yeah, so there's there was a study that came out. It was one study, and it showed that the gaiters didn't seem to be as effective as your regular mask for a covering. But overall, I think if you have something, you want something with more than one layer. So a mask that has, some mouth covering that has more than one layer, so 2 or 3 layers, and whatever it is, it needs to fit snugly over your nose and around your mouth. So, if you have the gaiter and that's, what you have, I would wear that.
Perfect. That was Mia, by the way, that asked that. Hopefully that answered it for you, Mia. Pastor Williams said,
he's asking me to drive it home. So we're going to talk about it again. We just talked about the psychological impact of everything. These are very uncertain times. And we talked about the fear, the anxiety, the nightmares, the flashbacks. There's trauma, there's psychological trauma created by this. Adults are experiencing it. So definitely our children are experiencing it. We don't like to be isolated. Social isolation does a lot of, has a negative impact. And as Dr. Jones stated, this has been 8 months. We know that eventually there will be light at the end of the tunnel, but we have to do our best to keep ourselves psychologically and physically safe during these times. I think that we need to make sure that we communicate and that it's okay to talk to someone that we trust and to normalize these feelings, because this is the time that we're in. If you are having any feelings of self-harm, it's important for you to reach out. It's important for you to tell someone. I don't think that, and we need to not look at it as being abnormal. You need to reach out to someone and talk to someone immediately. The number that we're going to give you tonight, and you can reach a licensed therapist such as myself, is area code 816-531-4683, extension 10. Again, that's 816-531-4683, extension 10. And again, we have a wonderful community here in the city and a lot of amazing providers like Dr. Jones. You've got a lot of people that have experienced it firsthand, that are willing, like Mia and her family, that have been courageous and shared their stories and are willing to always be a support system for others in the community. So lean on us, lean on people for support during this time. We all need someone, and we all need someone that we can trust and get through this, and we'll get through it together. We got to be safe, and like Dr. Jones says, wear our mask appropriately and wash your hands.
Yes, wash your hands. I put the link in the chat for the website that I was told you about.
Wonderful. Yeah, please definitely go to our chat box. Dr. Jones has provided the resource link there. And there's a lot of great resources in that link. And there's so many things, like she said, that we can do. We can journal. I love Sydney's comment earlier about Tyler Perry, and I am like, so for me during this time, I have been a 90 Day Fiance fan, which I don't know if that's more adult stuff, but I like the reality shows. So we all, Dr. Jones, what do you do for fun during this time? What's your balance?
Yeah, it's the same thing, kind of binge watching different TV shows. And I have gotten into shows that I normally wouldn't watch. Like I watched Lovecraft Country.
I heard of that, but I haven't watched that.
Really movie show either, but it's, it's sci-fi and it's horror, and I don't usually watch stuff like that. But it seems like now I want something where I can escape, something that you kind of escape reality.
Yeah. Kalisha, what's your go-to right now?
Right now I think I'm watching The Bachelorette and
awesome. And sir, you can
actually had to get off my normal stuff. I used to watch like my cooking shows and all of that, but I started a new Netflix show with my wife called Evil, and now I got stuck on that. We went all the way through it yesterday, and it was pretty crazy.
Okay.
I shouldn't be watching that type of stuff, but it's pretty good.
And I think I'm a chef now because I've been looking at all the YouTube recipes, candy apples to, but so anyway, find you something fun to do, keep your mind occupied, and call somebody if you need to talk. Thank you, Dr. Jones. Thank you, Mia.
Thanks, Dr. Jones. Thank y'all. We'll see y'all again next.
Bye, guys.
Next Tuesday, 6 o'clock. Be there, be square.